Thursday edition of the Art Lewis Show here on WSGW. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to introduce you to a couple of students from the Bay City High Schools. Carly Wright from Bay City Western and Michael Briggs from Bay City Central are with us. It's kind of vocational day around here, and we're going to give them a taste of what broadcasting is all about. They're both 11th graders. We will talk to them after the 10 o'clock news. After the 11 o'clock news on Focus, we'll learn about the adoption option, all coming up. But for this hour, returning for his monthly visit, the man who I consider to be the genius of outdoor living and the outdoor lifestyle, to me, the state's leading spokesman for the outdoor lifestyle, and a man who I've known for many decades. I call him the big one because he's a heck of a lot taller than I am, and he is Mike Avery. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Art. That introduction is nice to hear. I think you give me too much credit. I'm sorry I can't join you in the studio this morning, but this is the best I can do today, buddy.
Yeah, I know. You must be warming up for firearm season, which we're going to talk about. It's interesting,
well,
Mike.
It is just around the corner.
Well, yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit because over the years, particularly in recent years, you almost seem to become less interested in whitetail hunting. For whatever reasons, you had a lot on your plate and a lot going on. But with the advent of grandchildren and all of that stuff, your interest has been piqued again, hasn't it?
It has. A few years ago, I was at the point where I didn't care really. Honestly, I wasn't that excited about deer hunting at all. And it was a combination of many things, including pressure from hunting groups giving me some grief over some stances I had taken about shooting various size bucks. And I thought, you know what? I don't need this grief. And then we had the opportunity to grab some lease property in southwest Midland County, we being me and my son James. We took advantage of that. We got involved out there. We put some blinds out there. We put some food plots out there. And now James hunts out there. My grandson Trent hunts out there. My granddaughter Addison hunts out there. And it's just really rekindled my love for deer hunting. I don't have the passion that I used to, but boy, I sure do enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to Saturday morning, all four of us getting out there and just getting together and enjoying the fellowship and the experience of deer hunting. It has renewed my interest, Art.
So let me ask you this, Mike. Knowing you in your senior years, and I can say that since I'm a lot older than you are, crossbow or rifle, which one would you prefer?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say from October 1st to November 14th, it's crossbow, and after November 15th, it's a gun.
I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, I know. It's it's the hunt itself, isn't it?
It is, and at this point, I'm looking to shoot a big doe. That's really what I want to do. I want to shoot a big doe. I want to do some herd management. I want to put some venison in the freezer. I'm not interested personally in shooting a 1.5-year-old buck. If somebody else wants to, God bless you. I mean, it is your experience. Hunt your hunt. It is your license. You do what you want as long as it's legal, and you will get no grief from me. You'll get nothing but support. If the right 2.5-year-old buck walks in front of me Saturday morning, I will be more than happy to shoot it. But if not, hey, I'm out there with my family, and that's as good as it gets.
So let me ask about the deer herd this year. I mean, are we overpopulated, and most of it is what, does?
I would say so. Absolutely. Now, I'm talking about the Lower Peninsula. The UP is a different critter all by itself, but the Lower Peninsula, yeah, we have a lot of deer. We have a lot of does. And the thing about deer populations and deer hunting is it's very specific to your area. If you are in a section of land that has good habitat and a lot of deer, and you've got a good buck to doe ratio, and you take a nice buck during the season, you had a great season. But the next section over could have a completely different experience. And for you, the season wasn't so good. So deer hunting is really very specific to your area. The herd density, what your land looks like. And to be honest with you, Art, in some cases, it's whether you're baiting or not.
Yeah, and what's the rules now? I mean, with chronic wasting and all of that stuff, where are we with the baiting?
You cannot bait for whitetails in the Lower Peninsula, period, because of the concern of the spread of chronic wasting disease. Hey, Art, have you driven by a gas station lately? Have you seen the bags of corn and beets and carrots? Yeah. Does it look like baiting is illegal to you? No. And
now, in that baiting, if I understand this right, and you know me, as a non-hunter, I support hunting, but I'm a non-hunter. Food plots are not included in that. Is that correct?
That is correct. The DNR has encouraged us as hunters to put in food plots as an alternative to baiting.
How does that change things, though? I mean, the food plots are not huge.
Oh, that's such an interesting question. The biologist in Lansing will tell us that even though food plots are designed to attract deer, that food plots do not encourage the concentration of deer and nose-to-nose contact that bait does.
Yeah.
However, if you watch wild deer under an apple tree, they're congregated in a very specific spot. There's a lot of body contact, and hunting deer under an apple tree would be considered completely legal. If you take those apples that fell from that tree and move them over a couple hundred yards to in front of your blind, that is now considered baiting, and that is illegal.
Yeah. See any change in it at all?
I don't. I think the DNR has put so much emphasis and so many resources into the campaign talking about how dangerous chronic wasting disease is that they have painted themselves into a corner, and they really can't back away from that stance. The only way I see this changing is if the legislature gets involved and overrules it. And as much as I would like to see baiting allowed in the Lower Peninsula, I'm really hesitant and reluctant to see the legislature get involved in our wildlife management.
Yeah. All right, hang on, Mike. I'm going to take a break. And for those who's listening, if you have any questions for Mike Avery, you can give us a call, 989-752-6111, and chat with Mike about those outdoor issues you're concerned about. We will take a break and be back with more on The Art Lewis Show.
Are you overdue for
French, but the app I tried didn't help.
If you want to memorize words in another language, there's an app for that. But if you want to really look...
All right, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show. We're talking to Mike Avery, who you hear on the Outdoor Magazine weekends here on WSGW. So, Mike, now I've talked about this before because there have been some changes at MUCC in the leadership roles. How, in your estimation, is MUCC doing these days, and have they solidified the top job?
No, I think we're still in transition. In fact, I know we are. Mike Mitchell is the interim CEO. Mike has a lot of experience in organizations and helping to increase the fiscal responsibility of those groups. There is a search out there right now for a long-term CEO. I remain committed to MUCC and the ultimate goal of being a steward of Michigan's natural resources, and I'm just kind of sitting back and working with the folks there and waiting to see how things shake out.
Let me ask Mike about all these folks that are involved in the outdoor lifestyle. You've got MUCC. You've got conservation clubs all over the place. You got the state with their hands in it with the DNR. And what's the other regulatory agency that's involved? I forgot.
The NRC.
NRC, yeah, then that's right, the Natural Resources Council. Of all these organizations, which one do you stake out as the best in terms of supporting the outdoor lifestyle?
For me, it's been MUCC. I think they've done a wonderful job. The DNR, look at the DNR gets so much grief. There are a lot of people in our state, hunters and anglers, who absolutely say that they hate the DNR. I don't hate the DNR. I don't hate the DNR at all. I don't agree with everything that they do. I do think that there are a lot of people in the DNR who are committed to doing as good a job as possible. The NRC has the ultimate regulatory control. I've had my problems with the NRC. I think as individuals, they are probably fine people. They're wonderful people you'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with. I got to be honest, I wouldn't know an NRC commissioner if I met him on the street, aside from Becky Humphreys, who I've known since she was a field biologist at the Gratiot-Saginaw Game Area. But I don't think they have done a great job. In fact, I don't even think they've done a good job in watching out for our state's natural resources. And I'm real disappointed. Last summer there was a meeting in Bay City where there weren't even enough commissioners who showed up to have a quorum to have a meeting. Well, What kind of dedication is that?
So let me ask this. In terms of their roles, why do we need an NRC and a DNR?
Because the DNR needs an overseeing agency. This is my opinion. Needs an overseeing agency so the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, doesn't become too powerful in themselves. I think it's good that we have a DNR that makes suggestions as to how things should be done, and those suggestions have to be sent to a governing agency to decide yay or nay. So the options are you either have an NRC to do it, you have a legislature to do it, or you have a governor to do it. I don't want the governor deciding these things. I don't want politicians through the form of a legislature doing these things. So in theory, the NRC is the best agency to do this. But I think we need to tweak that NRC.
I mean, so the DNR may come up with a suggestion for a regulation. We assume and we hope it's based on science. They pass it on to the NRC. Does the NRC base it on the same science?
Well, in theory, they do, Art. However, when you look at what happened about a year and a half ago when the NRC decided to take away year-round coyote hunting because of the perception that gave to non-hunters and anti-hunters, I think that right there solidified the fact that they were not dealing with sound scientific wildlife management practices as mandated in Proposal G that the citizens of Michigan approved years ago.
It is
back to that.
It's reasonable to expect then, I would assume, and I know that's a bad word, if we stick with the coyote hunting for a moment, if coyote hunting is banned, it is reasonable to expect at some point in time we're going to be overrun with a coyote population, aren't we?
Absolutely. But to be clear, the NRC did not ban coyote hunting in general. They banned coyote hunting year-round, and they've since revisited that and backed away from that. But yes, to your point, if you don't control wildlife species through either trapping or hunting, we will be overrun with those populations. And the North American wildlife management model relies on hunting to take care of these populations. Saturday in the woods, the opening day of firearm deer season, we will have a lot of hunters, hundreds of thousands of hunters, but not the number that we did a few years ago. So those hunters need to take more deer to manage the state's deer population. The DNR has tried to give hunters some tools to do that by extending the firearm season. There's no longer basically a muzzleloader season. It becomes an extended extended rifle season. We have to do a better job of taking more animals, and the DNR has to give us all the tools to do that. And I'll go back to the baiting. I think if Lower Peninsula hunters had the ability to use bait, that would be one more tool to allow us to take more animals. Now, some people will say, some hunters will say, baiting's it's not ethical. Well, I would argue that one all day long, but we don't have time to have that whole discussion.
Yeah. So let's. I want to move up to the Upper Peninsula for a minute. Along with the coyote hunting, is wolf hunting, and where are we with that? Because it seems to come, it goes, it comes, it goes, and how much of it is the responsibility of the federal government causing it?
It is in the hands of the feds. I have been told by people in Lansing in the DNR that they have a plan in place, waiting for another Michigan wolf hunt if we get approval from the feds. Now, you remember, we did have a wolf hunt several years ago, and then it was taken away, not by the DNR. People get mad at the DNR about this. It's not the DNR's fault. The DNR wants to have a wolf hunt, but it is the anti-hunters at the federal level, the national level, who have petitioned the Fish and Wildlife Service and found favorable judges across the country to put bans on wolf hunts because of the Endangered Species Act. So we desperately need a wolf hunt in the Upper Peninsula, absolutely. But getting through all this paperwork and jumping through these hoops is the problem.
So what brings that about, Mike? For example, let me put out this thesis and see what you think of it. They don't look at it, the wolf, as a predator. Rather, they look at it as a relative of the dog. And since we're all in love with our dogs, heaven forbid we go after the wolf. What do you think?
Yes, there is certainly that perception. But even more, there are. All right, you take the Humane Society of the U.S., HSUS. You take the HSUS is the one that's coming to mind. There's another big one, PETA. You know, they will tell you that they are raising funds to support their local animal shelter and protect puppies and kittens.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're not.
Right.
That's not what the money's being used for. They are blatant anti-hunting groups that, you know, it's easy to look at a wolf and say, oh, we shouldn't hunt those. But how do you look at a deer and say we shouldn't hunt deer? Yet these same groups, the blatant anti-hunting groups, look at deer in that same way. But they know that they can't ban deer hunting because there are too many people who do it. But boy, it's a lot easier to keep people from wolf hunting, or maybe running bears with dogs because there aren't many people who do that. You know, they will tell you they'd like to ban everything. They know they can't do it, so they pick and chip away at the edges.
But without hunting, we'd be overrun by all these animals. So, all right, let's take a break. Come back. We have a question from a caller for you, and we will do that when we return here on the Art Lewis Show.
Gotta go.
All right, we're back with you in conversation with Mike Avery from the Outdoor Magazine that you hear weekends on WSGW. And a caller asked Mike, what can be done about all the Canada geese? Well, that was a good question.
I'm laughing because as I look at the pond behind the house right now, it is absolutely covered with geese, and I have a constant battle keeping them out of the yard. Oh, well, again, you go back to hunting, and several years ago here in Michigan, the DNR did put into place an early goose season that starts, I think, September 1st, and that's designed to knock down this resident population of birds. The problem is not the birds that are migrating through from Canada. The problem is the local birds who live here year-round, who follow golf courses and parks and my backyard. So... You know, hunting is, the main way to do that. Where I live here, I'm just inside the city limit. So we can't hunt the birds. So what I end up doing in the summertime is I put a goose fence across the backyard and the two neighbors' yards. It's a 3-foot-tall green snow fence, and the birds can fly over it, but they're not smart enough to realize they can. So it keeps them off the yards. There are sprays you can put out there. I haven't tried those yet. I've tried the fishing line with the pie tins and such. It is. It's a real battle. It's a real hassle.
And what's the hunting situation now? How long is that season?
It runs from September 1st, and in the early season, I think it's very generous, 5 birds a day, because they want the population knocked down. I think goose season is still open, and I only know this because my grandson Trent is now a goose hunter, and it continues on for a little bit yet. I can't give you the exact dates, but later in the season like this, a lot of people turn their attention to deer and they forget about the goose hunting. But in this case, I think the department, being the DNR, is as generous as they can be in allowing hunters time to try to knock down this population. But it seems like, it's a losing battle. Go by Midland Mall sometime and look at the birds out there, and then look at the little old ladies feeding those geese so they don't starve. They're not going to starve, ladies. They're okay. They're taking care of themselves.
Yeah, they have a habit of doing that. They've been doing it for centuries.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah. Does it follow the duck season, or is it totally separate?
The early goose season that starts on that's a good question. We used to have an experimental early teal season. It's now just called the early teal season, which I think, Art, and I'm not a waterfowl hunter, I think kicks off September 1st as well. So, yes, basically I would say they do follow the duck season.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a duck hunter. Avid. That's all he does.
Oh, I tell you that. My friends who are hardcore waterfowl hunters, they are addicted. There's something about that sport that once it gets a hold of you, man, it grabs you.
Yeah. So as you look at state issues today, what do you see as major issues on the plate that need to be addressed in Michigan when it comes to hunting and the outdoor lifestyle?
Funding the DNR and the potential license fee increases that could involve.
I was going to get to that, because actually the budget that passed, there was a lot of talk about big increases in the fees, but they didn't come to fruition, did they?
No, but let's make sure we're talking about the same things here, Art. The Senate passed their version of the DNR funding bill that was both hunting and fishing related and would involve license fee increases. Mm-hmm. But the House has not passed their version of the bill, which was only fishing related. So, there's going to be a lot of back and forth here and back and forth until, and the House leadership said they're not interested in taking up the Senate's version of the bill. So I think we're a ways off from this yet. In talking with the folks, say, at MUCC, they say, it could be 2027 before we see a license fee increase by the time this is all worked out.
Wouldn't that have had to have been included in the budget? Is it not part of the budget process?
That's a good question. I don't know the specifics of that, Art. I don't. I've heard about that as well. You tell me. You educate me on this. You follow this more closely than I do.
Well, I just knew it wasn't there, and that's I didn't know whether it had to be part of the budget or not. To be honest, I'm in the same boat you are. That's why I asked.
And I don't know the specifics on that, and I apologize.
In reality, and if we have to be realistic about it, my understanding is the fees haven't gone up in a long time.
2014.
So 11 years. It is realistic to expect an increase, isn't it?
I think it is. With everything, the cost of everything going up, I think it's not unreasonable to expect the cost of our hunting and fishing licenses will go up. Going back to the general hatred for the DNR in certain parts of our society, they don't want the DNR to get another dime. They think they're wasting the money that they have, and they don't want to see their license fees go up. I will go back to my position of, no matter what it costs for these licenses within reason, I will pay for it, or I will pay it, because I look at the recreational value that I get from the money that I pay for that license, and I think it's a good deal.
Yeah. Well, I look, I've gotten fishing licenses because I've had to when I go fishing with you, but I look at the recreational stamp on your license plate, the state park stamp, the same way. Even if I don't use it, I'm contributing to the lifestyle of the state, and I feel that's important. Yeah. I feel that's important. All right, hang on, buddy. One more break, and then we'll be back to finish up. We're talking to Mike Avery, Outdoor Magazine, heard on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday on WSGW. Take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford, because as you've seen in the past few days, winter has arrived early. It will moderate a little bit now, but winter is not far away on a permanent basis, and snow and ice bring you driving challenges. And believe it or not, the tires on your car are important, because there are things like winter tires that are built differently than your standard driving tire. And to tell us all about it, here's John from Quick Lane Freeland.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures. Unlike harder all-season tires, which stiffen and lose traction in the cold, this flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. Stop into Quick Lane Freeland today. Have your tires checked. If you need tires, remember they sell all of their tires at just $5 over cost. Doesn't matter what size, what kind, $5 over cost. And you might also have your cooling system checked while you're there. Also take a look at the lineup of Fords at McDonald Ford on the same property, and also their range of quality pre-owned vehicles for any budget. Quick Lane Freeland and McDonald Ford, two names that stand ready to serve all of your automotive needs. Stop in, visit them today.
Since 1947, Clayton.
Back with you, chatting with Mike Avery from Outdoor Magazine. And Mike, we've got a couple of callers here. This is first Bill in Caro. You're on with Mike Avery, and then we'll get to Chuck. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, what's your stance on, all these carcasses laying on the side of the road? You're talking about chronic wasting disease. I mean, if a farmer had a down cattle in his field, he wouldn't farm around it. It'd be just, removed, disposed of, whatever. What's your idea on that?
Well, that's an excellent question, because especially this time of year, there are so many dead deer on the side of the road with the rut kicking in and the deer running all over the place. I've really noticed an increase. The problem is, who's going to claim responsibility for those? The county road commissions, most of them say, well, they're not our fault. The DNR are not our responsibility. The DNR is saying, well, they're not our responsibility. Well, they were the DNR's responsibility when those deer were alive. But you're not going to see conservation officers go out there and pick those deer up. You're not going to see wildlife biologists go out there and pick those deer up. It's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to it.
Let me inject an answer. Depends where you live. And I'll give you an example, because in Saginaw County, the Sheriff's Department has taken on the responsibility of picking up those carcasses, and some townships will also go out and do it. So it just depends where you live, who has assumed the responsibility. In a lot of places, they haven't. And at one time, I was told that the carcasses were looked at as hazardous waste, and nobody wanted to move them. And I'm saying to myself, how ridiculous. I mean, it just makes sense to clear the road and get rid of the hazard. But depends where you live. That's the answer, Bill. And if you're in Caro, check with your county, check with your locals.
Yeah, because we have a lot of these road cleanups. You'll see the sign, next 5 miles, so-and-so, Ambits cleans, the highway. But you clean it, and you got to walk around all these dead animals, and there's,
Yeah, well, it's like I say, you got to find out who's responsible in your area.
Yeah, it just, a farmer would, if he had something in a field, he would do common sense, clean it up. You don't walk through that. I mean, that's what contributed, I think, to the chronic wasting. I don't know.
All right. Good enough, Bill. Appreciate it.
Okay,
thanks. You bet. And we've got Chuck with us this morning. Chuck, you're on with Mike Avery. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Geez, all those dead animals on the side of the road are food for other animals, predators. You know that. So it's not that big of an issue, I don't think. But anyhow, with respect to licensing, I'm retired. So I theoretically have more time to hunt and fish, and yet I pay less for a license. I think the license fee for somebody retired is ridiculously low. I get argued. I can argue that with my buddies all the time. But you look at the cost of a fishing license or hunting license for somebody, in particular retired person, it's so low. I mean, you can